Hello and welcome. This is New Hope Church. We are located in Fulton, Maryland. My name is Casper. I'm on staff here at the church, and we just want to say a big hello to you wherever you're watching from, whenever you're watching this service from. We are so glad that you're with us, and right now we see you typing in the comments each week, and this is a part of how we do community online, digitally together, when we jump in the comments and we say hi to each other. So keep doing that. Keep shouting out where you're watching from. Keep saying hi to each other. And would you do this for us? You would be surprised how much it helps our algorithm to help boost our channel, help invite new people into this experience. You'd be surprised how much it helps when you just go to right now to the bottom of the screen and hit the like button. Could you do that for us right now? This week, we are going into the fourth of our series on anxiety. And I don't know about you, but these messages from Pastor Mike have just been hitting my soul. And if you want to go back and watch any of them, go over to our YouTube channel, hit the videos tab, and you can go and watch all of our archive of videos. And you might also see in there some music videos that we've been posting if you want a little encouragement during your week while you are working or at home. I wanted to say a brief prayer over all of us. Father, right now, whenever we're watching from, it might be today on the weekend, it might be in our car as we're driving to work, it might be on our lunch break, it might be as we're cleaning at home. Right now, Father, would you just come alongside us? Remind us of your presence. Remind us that you are good. Remind us that you have a plan for our lives. We praise things in your name. Amen. Hey, wherever you are, jump to your feet. Let's sing together. Welcome to worship.
Welcome, New Hope. We're so glad that you're joining us here for worship. If you're watching us online, we're glad you're tuning in from wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this service. We hope to see you here one day. If this is the first time that you're here with us, we're glad that you're here, and we hope to get to know your story. We'd like to invite you right now to stand with us as we sing some songs of praise to a God who cares and loves us so much. Let's all sing together.
the God of covenant, of faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you do just what you say. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. God, from age to age, though the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak the word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness from the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me.
I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. You never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus. Come on. I never. Come on. My hope and firm foundation. You never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. You never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus.
There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing with me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. I don't wanna be afraid every time I face the waves. I don't wanna be afraid. I don't wanna be afraid. I don't wanna fear the storm just because I hear it roar. I don't wanna fear the storm. I don't wanna fear the storm. Peace be still, say the word, and I will set my feet upon the sea till I'm dancing in the deep. Peace be still, you are here, so it is well. Even when my eyes can't see, I will trust the voice that speaks. I'm not gonna be afraid, 'cause these waves are only waves. I'm not gonna be afraid. I'm not gonna be afraid. I'm not gonna fear the storm. You are greater than its roar. I'm not gonna fear the storm. No, I'm not gonna fear it all. faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me.
Let me hear you sing.
And let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. And let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Peace, be still, say the word, and I will set my feet upon the sea till I'm dancing in the deep. Oh, peace, be still, you are here, so it is well. Even when my eyes can't see, I will trust the voice that speaks. Peace over me. Rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Peace, be still, say the word, and I will set my feet upon the sea till I'm dancing in the deep. Peace, be still, you are here, so it is well. Even when my eyes can't see, I will trust the voice that speaks. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. And it is well with my soul.
With my soul,
It is well with my soul. It is well
is a time we talk to God through prayer. If you have any special requests, please feel free to come to the front. If you're watching online, you can DM your requests. We would love to pray for you. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us this day of rest. Whether this week was full of ups or downs, we came together today to worship you. Come into the hearts of those who have come up front. Maybe they are really wanting to praise you for something amazing you did this week. But maybe they are struggling and need a helping, comforting hand from you. I pray that anyone who is hurting or in pain right now feels your presence and knows that they matter. They will always matter because you are there for them. You are always there, Lord, even if we turn our backs on you. You know us better than anyone and stick with us through all our ups and downs. No matter how tough any situation is, let us know we can always come back to you. Bless anyone here who feels neglected or unwanted, and let them know that you want them, that you love them and will care for them always, that you will provide for them. Thank you for bringing us all here today safely to worship you. I love you so much, and thank you for being in my life. In your name I pray, amen.
When did I start to forget all of the great things you did? When did I throw away faith for the impossible? How did I start to believe you weren't sufficient for me? Why do I talk myself out of seeing miracles, your miracles? You are more than able. You are more than able. You are more than able.
Well, good morning. It's good to be inside today, isn't it? It's like, what happened to summer? And it's like fall already, and I don't know what's going on. But hey, I'm glad you're here with us today. We're actually wrapping up a message series called Anxiety, this idea of finding peace of mind. And we've been trying to, our goal, as I told you the very first week, my goal is to get that the words that we just sang a moment ago to be the truth for our lives. To honestly believe that God is more than able. That no matter what happens, that nothing is impossible with God. And for some of us, that's a long struggle, and it's a long shot, and it's hard to believe, and especially for somebody who is maybe new to faith, or is even thinking about faith, or doesn't even consider themselves religious, or maybe it's just some of us who have struggled with faith because of all the stuff. Because let's be true. Life gives us lots of stuff, right? And so today as we wrap up this whole idea of finding some peace of mind, I thought we ought to talk about the one thing that for all of us pushes back at our peace of mind, and that's, right? Because worry is a people thing. Everybody worries about different things. Here's the reality is, we've all worried about something, right? In fact, some of us right now are worrying about something. But we've all worried about something, and those some things at times get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I've discovered is that the closer we are to the thing, the bigger they are. But we've all worried about something. And the truth is, we don't all worry about the same things, right? Or in the same way. That's why, like, if you're in high school right now, and your parents are like, you need to worry about this stuff, and you're like, why? It's like, and then they're like, well, no, because they're worried about, you need to worry about your grades, you need to worry about your attendance, you need to worry about getting into a good school, and you're like, I'm just worried if my friends are going to reply to my text, right? I mean, and they're like, you need to worry, but the reality is, we don't all worry about the same things. And we don't worry in the same way. Some of us, worry by like, okay, we kind of thought about it for a minute, and it's like, I can't do anything about it. I'm going to leave it alone. And there's stuff that's like, no. Mike, we can't leave it alone. Because if we leave it alone, then nothing's going to happen. And so I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to roll it over. I'm going to look at all sides. I'm going to see if I can get it open. If I can't, I'm going to roll it some more. And I'll roll it some more because if I'm not doing, I got to do something. And this is at least something, right? And the crazy thing about worry for all of us is this. We think it helps. Even though we know it doesn't. But it's like, what else am I going to do? I have to do something, and so something's better than nothing. At least that's what we tell ourselves. So I'm just going to keep thinking about it. Because don't we all know how valuable, how helpful it is to keep thinking about stuff, right? So the real question we all have to answer is simply this. So why do we do it? And let me ask you a what if before we get into what Jesus had to say about it. Well, what if worrying lets us feel like we have some control? Because isn't that what we're after at the end of the day? A sense of control in our lives, a sense of stability, a sense of that we can do something about these things, that if we just do enough right stuff and plan it all well, it's always going to turn out the way we want it to. What if? What if worrying lets us feel like we have some control? So before we go any farther, and before we wrap this all up today, I want to invite you to bow your heads, and let's pray one more time together, right? Father, I think of those words that Peter wrote thousands of years ago now, for us to cast all our cares, to give it all to you. And it looks so simple on paper, but it's so hard in reality. And today I just pray that as we look at what your son said, and the very specific things he said about worry, that somehow they'll find a resting place in our lives. Somehow in our hearts and in our minds, we would be able to let go of our worry and recognize again that you are more than able. That's really a big part of this whole thing we call faith. This idea of trusting in you. Trusting that you really do have our best interest. You really will help us through things. that are impossible for us without you. And so today, if you can move us that way or nudge us that way or kind of even push us a little bit that way, this will have been time well spent. In your name, amen. So let me ask just some questions for all of us to consider before we hear what Jesus had to say about this. Has worrying made life better? Anybody? Anybody has worrying made your life better? Has it added anything to our life? Maybe some gray hair? Maybe some less hair? Maybe some of those wrinkles, that we always say, oh, they're smile wrinkles, and not really smile wrinkles, right? Have they taken anything away from our lives? When you think about the time, I can't speak for you, but I'm going to speak for all of us, right? We spend a lot of time worrying. And some of us, it's about, I'm going to get all the facts and the data. I'm going to research. That's my way of dealing with worry. Others just sit and kind of think about all the feelings. We go around. But some of us, we've taken away time. We've taken away energy. We've taken away peace for ourselves. And not only that, have we taken it away from anybody else in our lives? Because sometimes our worry isn't just something we experience. Some of us love to share our worry and let other people worry, and then it becomes this huge thing. So today, maybe we need to rethink how we think about it. Maybe we really need to rethink how this whole thing of worry and does it really add benefit and how it all works, and even though we don't know, it doesn't. What else can we do in place of that? So let's look at what Jesus had to say when he talked in his most clear statements, and I'm going to be honest with you, they're not really necessarily clear. It would have been much more helpful if Jesus had just got to the bottom line, but that's not Jesus' way. He's going to tell us some stories, right? And the crazy thing is, he links worry up with something that we worry about, but don't think is necessarily the whole root of worrying. But this is where Jesus starts his whole discussion about worry, not about worry, but about something else. And he simply said this: No one can serve two masters. Period. Now, I want you to notice, Jesus doesn't say we won't try to do that we won't think we can. He just simply says, I'm going to bottom line it for you, folks. As you're listening here to me today, no one can do this. It's impossible. In fact, he explains why it's impossible. He says, listen, the person will hate one master and love the other, right? And isn't it true that you have some love-hate relationship with some things in your life? Some things that you're required to do, some things that you feel like you have to do. So we experience this tension in life. Or not only will we love one and hate the other, we'll also will be devoted to one, more loyal to one, and in the process despise the other, right? Some of us feel that pull in our own lives and work, right? We know we need to work. We enjoy some aspects of work, right? But we also know it's pulling us away from our family, especially if we got something going on at home that we need to be there for, and we're kind of pulled back and forth. But we need to be there. We have to be there, not only to provide the money, but to do our job and to provide whatever those things are that come out of it. And we begin to be frustrated by that, even despise it a little bit. And sometimes we can even despise, let's be honest, some of us enjoy being at work more than we enjoy being at home. Now don't elbow anybody, just look up here, right? But it's true, because it's like, it's so much easier at work. I'm capable, I'm confident, I don't get hit with all this stuff that I don't really know what's going on. I don't have to deal with all these emotions, and so and something begins to happen in our hearts. And Jesus' point is simply this, that the things that we are most devoted to are the things that we worry about. I mean, think about the things you worry about. Aren't they the things that you value, that you care strongly about, that you're devoted to, right? Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's, maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's all the bills, right? And they're just piling up, and you don't want to be devoted to them, but you have to do it. And it's like, those are the things you worry about because you're devoted to not being out on the streets. And here's the thing I want you to know from me as your pastor. I don't ever worry about your job. And I don't ever worry about your kids. And I don't ever worry about your bills. Now, you may be thinking, Mike, I thought you're supposed to be caring and compassionate. But I want you to understand, It doesn't mean I don't have any compassion towards you. I don't care. That I might stop if you tell me about what's going on at work, what's going on at home, or what's going on with your kids, that I won't stop and pray for you, that I won't care about that. But I want you to know I never stay up at night late worrying about those things. Because those aren't the things that I'm devoted to. I got my own list of stuff. But you think about all the things we worry about. We worry about our jobs, the advancement of jobs. We worry about school. We worry about grades. We worry about bills. We worry about retirement. We worry simply about our stuff, right? And all the stuff. And we have so much to worry about because what's going to happen here and how are we going to afford this? And we get it all going around and around and around. Which I think is why back to Jesus, why he clearly said this. Folks, you cannot serve both God and worldly riches, mammon. Mammon is simply a word for all of our stuff. You can't do it. But what if this is about the tension that we all face? The pulling of our competing masters. Because I'm going to make a guess in your life that it's similar to my life, and that is that you have competing masters in your life. Things you want to do, things you enjoy doing, things you feel compelled to do, feel responsible to do. And have you ever noticed at times those don't always go together? You got that big project at work you've been working on for like 6 months, and it's like coming up on the big submittal, and it's going to be this huge win for the company. And oh, by the way, don't forget your daughter has that recital coming up Wednesday night, right? And you're like, oh, it's due Thursday morning. Well, you want to go do this, but you also want to go do that. And the whole idea that I got to pick, we don't like the idea of picking. We wish we could have it all and be it all and do it all. I mean, you think of all the competing masters. You think of the unexpected expectations, the unrealistic expectations that are just part of our culture, part of our society. We're told it's possible to be it all, do it all, have it all, right? All at the same time, without any trade-offs. Where in life does that ever work? Where in your life have you ever been able to have it all, be it all, do it all at the same time? Isn't life about choices? Isn't life about when I choose this, I'm also choosing not that? Because what if we've tied our self-worth to impossible, ever-moving goals? What if we can't do and have it all? And what if it's okay not to? Because I hope you recognize there are whole industries that are designed and based on these unrealistic expectations. And they want to keep us, worrying about those things. They want to keep us uncomfortable with those things. They want to keep us trying to do all those things. Because isn't everything we see, right? All the advertisements, all your friends' postings on all the social media, and you're like, how do they afford to do that? How are they doing? But it looks so great, right? My life doesn't look so good. It's all built to get us devoted to an idea, to a concept that may not really be true at its basis. And because of that, Jesus says, because you can't serve these competing masters. It's impossible, Jesus says. Doesn't mean we won't try. Doesn't mean it's not always the tension there. But he says, based on that, so I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you, don't worry. Which I don't know about you, it's like so helpful for me. It's like a little light bulb goes off. I wish I had thought of that, Jesus. I wish I just thought, don't worry, right? So, in following Jesus' direction today, I'm going to tell you this. Stop it. Let's pray and we'll be out of here today, all right? No. It's like, no, right? But the reality is we know what Jesus is saying is true. We know the idea that we shouldn't worry, that to stop it would be so much healthier in life. Our problem is there's so much stuff to worry about. But here's the question. What if the issue isn't worrying, but what it does to us? What if that's why Jesus says, don't worry? Not because worrying is bad, but Jesus knows something that we sometimes miss, is that worry does something to us, and most of the time, it's not a very good thing that it does to us. Because what if it feeds our devotion and our despising? What if it feeds those things that Jesus says is going to happen? We're going to be devoted to the one, loyal to the one, and we're going to be despise the other one, hate the other one. Feel that tension all the times. Because what if the things we worry about end up defining our life? Are we going to be comfortable with that? I mean, do you want the thing that you worry most about right now to be the defining part of your life? I'm going to guess you don't. I'm going to guess you recognize that your life is more than just this tension. Life is more, it's about so many different things. But in those moments, we make it all about that one thing. So Jesus goes on and says, listen, don't worry about the food or the drink you need to live, or about the clothes you need for your body. Because there's a reason, Jesus says. And that's this, that life is more than food, and the body is more than our clothes. Jesus is saying is the things that we worry about in their day, in their situation, food and clothes were the things they apparently worried about. They were in a very much a, you get food today, you eat it today. There was no refrigerators, there was no shopping centers, there was no quick marts, there was no fast food. There was like, what you had is what you had. And so this idea, are we going to have food for tomorrow, was a regular piece of their life. And clothes. That most of them had just one outfit, which, ladies, I know would have been terrible for you, right? It's like, how do I change this? How do I make this look good? You didn't. That was what you had, right? I mean, maybe you took the belt and you put it around your head. That was a little bit of style in, but you were worried about, how am I going to provide? Because when this wears out, and when's the time it wears out? How long can I make it last? And Jesus says, listen, I don't want you to miss this big picture. Our life is more than food. Our body's more than just the clothes that we put on it. And I think we all know that. I mean, this is not just a religious principle. This is just a life principle. We all know that even if you're a foodie, you know that life's about more than just, food and great pictures of food and trying great food. I mean, it's great to have great food, but it's like life's got to be more than that. And no matter how good you look in that outfit, life's more than just how good you look in this one moment. And the crazy thing for all of us is that we know rationally it doesn't make any sense at all. But we also know something else. Because isn't it true we aren't always as rational as we'd like to think we are? So Jesus, to help us with this whole idea, begins to give us some ideas, some illustrations about how this works. And he says to that group, that crowd that day, it was this big crowd. This is part of the Jesus Sermon on the Mount, this big famous coming out message when he covered so many different things. And he says to this big group, oh, by the way, everybody, look at the birds in the air. So they're like, all right. I mean, it might be way out in the desert. I don't know how many birds there are. I mean, I'm hoping not vultures aren't spinning around, but maybe there's a few birds, maybe there aren't, but look at the birds in the air. And Jesus begins to teach us a lesson from the birds. He says, listen, they don't plant, and maybe some of you have heard this before. They don't plant, they don't sow, they don't harvest, they don't reap, or they don't even store food in barns. They simply go out and get what they need at that moment, come back and eat it, and when they need more, they go out and get it. But look at how they live their life. And Jesus says this very almost insensitive thing. He says, but your heavenly Father feeds them. That God somehow provides for them. And that doesn't mean they just sit there on the nest going, cheep, 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 and God drops worms in their mouth. They got to go out and get the worms, right? They got to do their part, but in that process of doing their part, God provides those things. And Jesus says, after looking at these birds and recognizing how God sort of takes care of these birds, he asks them this this very deep theological question. Are you ready for it? Here it is. Which we look at it and think, well, that's a dumb thing to say. Of course we're worth more than birds. But Jesus is making a much bigger point than, aren't you just worth more than birds? He's saying, think about it. Our Father in heaven, our God, cares so much about birds that he takes care of those birds. Excuse me. So if he takes care of those birds, what would he do for the things, the one being that he has created in his image? The one thing he said, let's make something like us. Not all the way like us, but let's make something, right? Let's make this thing that has all these abilities to communicate, to have feelings, to make choices, to do all this different kind of stuff. Aren't you more important than birds? And if you are more important than birds, what does that mean about how we see life and how we worry about life? Because what if Jesus' point isn't don't try? Because sometimes people read this and say, well, see, Jesus is saying, don't do anything, right? Like, how he takes care of this, like how he takes care of that. They don't seem to do anything, so we just sit back. He's going to take care of us. It's just about sitting there waiting for Jesus to drop everything in laps. But what if it's not about don't try? What if it's don't worry so much about it? What if it's don't make such a big deal about all those things that's easy to worry about? And then Jesus makes not just a radical turn, he goes in a whole different direction. When he asks the next thing, he says, oh, by the way, who of you can add any time to your life by worrying about it? Show of hands. The reality is we've probably taken some time off our life by worrying, but never adding anything to it, right? None of us can add to it that way. And then he makes another turn. He says, oh, and why do you worry about clothes? And we're thinking, well, because we got to wear them. And we like to look good when we're wearing things, right? And so we kind of go off in this whole thing. But then Jesus says, look at this. Why do you worry about clothes? Consider the lilies in the field. These beautiful flowers, right? Lilies are gorgeous flowers. They don't work or make them clothes for themselves. They're just that way. But let me tell you something, that even Solomon, this famous guy from Judaism, with his riches and all of his wisdom and all of his glory, was not dressed as beautifully as one of those flowers. And if that is enough to consider something else. If God clothes the wildflower in the field, fields that no one's ever going to see, but they're still beautiful out there. And they're here today and tomorrow they're used for starting fires. Will he not much more clothe you? To which we think, that sounds all so easy. But somebody's got to provide for this. And it can't just be sit back and wait. And if we sit back and wait too long, we won't have any food, won't have any clothes. But what if in spending so much focus on getting, we're missing what God's providing? Think about it. Don't worry about what you're going to eat, about getting some food, because that was a big thing for them. Don't worry about what you're going to wear, right? Even that was apparently another big thing for them. Our list would be something totally different. But we get so wound up in all of those things. We get so much focus on getting those things. Getting ahead, getting good grades, getting this honor, getting that, accolade, getting this promotion, getting that car, getting that boyfriend or that girlfriend, getting all those different things that we would add up to stuff. What if we're so focused on getting that we might miss what God is providing? And then Jesus says one of those statements that's so easy to read in a negative way. And I talk to you about this a lot, don't I? I say how you hear Jesus when he says these statements tells you about how you see God. Because it's a statement that just read cold, it looks like not a good thing. But what if Jesus, when he says these words, and I'm going to put up here on the screen in just a moment, what if when he says those words, he's maybe got a little smile on his face, and maybe he's trying to get them to think about something deeper. Because here's what he says. Don't have so little faith. Literally, you of little faith. Now, I don't know about you. That doesn't sound like a positive, right? But what if Jesus is saying, again, as opposed to him saying, oh, you bunch of faithless group of people, right? I mean, when are you going to get your act together? When are you going to trust God? It could be that kind of idea, but what if it's really, he's saying, listen, you have so little faith because again, of those two competing masters in your life. Because these would have been all religious people. I know you're devoted to God. I see it in your actions. It's part of just the Jewish way of life at this time. But I know you're devoted to the food and the clothes. And you're devoted to providing for your life. What if that's contributing to your little faith? Instead of being a description of your little faith. Because what if worry really is a trust issue? And what if we have more faith in our worry than God at times? Because isn't it true when you think about when you've worried, and especially if you're a person of faith, especially if you're a follower of Jesus kind of person of faith, isn't it true that sometimes you worry and the problem is this, that we get stuck at I know God can, but I don't know if he will? Because that's kind of part of the whole faith thing, is that we know God can. Our issue normally isn't whether God can do these things, it's just whether he will do those things. And when we're not sure he might do those things, we begin to worry because somebody's got to do those things. And so if God's not going to do it, we got to step in. And how are we going to do this when our minds go around and around and around? But Jesus goes back at it. He says, listen, don't worry and say, what will we eat? Or what will we drink? What will we wear? And again, I want to remind you that Jesus' point isn't that our situation isn't so bad. Because it may be. And Jesus' point isn't that things are going to be fine. Because they may not be. And Jesus' point isn't don't be concerned. Because there may be reason to be concerned. But Jesus' point is, don't get so pulled in those things that become the whole thing you worry about. They become the whole of your life. See, what if it's that we're putting our faith in the wrong thing? We're putting our faith in trying to fix it all and not in putting our faith in the God who can fix it all. Jesus goes on and says, listen, the people who don't know God, the Gentiles, the pagans, whatever your version might say, they run after, they eagerly seek these things. They seek the food and they seek the clothes. And if you think of all the pagan religions you've ever heard about, right? The other religions, especially back 2,000 years ago, it was about appeasing their gods, right? If we needed to eat, we need to make sure that the God who sends rain and the God that sends sun, they're all happy with us, right? If the God who fertility, who makes our crops grow, we got to make sure they're happy as well. And so that's what they eagerly seek after all these things. They're the ones that don't know the God that you know. But he says, listen, that's what they do, but here's what I want you to recognize. Your Father in heaven, he knows. He knows we need those things. The question isn't whether God knows or not. Because Jesus says, listen, he does know. Not does he know, he cares about those things. And then Jesus will say something at the end that can be a little bothersome. Because it seems like we're worrying about providing things for life, Jesus, and now you're going to tell us to set our focus on a whole different direction. So let's look at it, and then I'm going to come back to it. He says, so based on all that because your Father knows and you don't need to be worrying about these things, I want you to seek first God's kingdom. That ought to be your number one priority, what God's kingdom looks like, what God's kingdom ought to be, and what God wants, his righteousness, his right way of doing things, right? That's what we ought to seek first. Don't worry about the clothes, don't worry about the food, don't worry about all that kind of stuff. Just seek God's first, which we think, hold it here, that's great, but I'm like not a pastor, I'm not a priest, I'm not a monk, I'm somebody who kind of devotes their whole life to this. I have a family, I gotta take care of, I got all these responsibilities. Jesus was not talking to a group of pastors, of priests, of monks, of these people that just all they did was seek after God and to the extent of nothing else in life. He was talking to people like you and like me. So when he says seek first, he's not saying don't do anything else. He's just saying, remember we have these two things battling. These competing interests. And we all have those things. But keep putting your energy towards the one. So that's the one you end up loving at the end of the day. The one you end up being loyal to at the end of the day. Not the one that you despise. In fact, if you can kind of forget about that, you can get just down to this one thing. That would be so much more healthy for you. Because then you don't have to worry about all of that stuff. Because that's literally what Jesus says. He says, listen, then all your other needs will be met. These things will be given to you. Which sounds so simple and easy, right? Which goes back again to this song we've been singing this whole month. You are more than... In some way, those words need to be not just words we sing, but a value that we live our life on. So then Jesus says these words, which again seem a little harsh. So don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will have its own worries. Sounds like something your grandfather would say, isn't it? Just worry about today. Tomorrow got its own problems, right? But it's like, it's true, isn't it? Because we know what you're worried about today. We know what's important today, but do you know what's going to be important tomorrow? I'm pretty sure I'm going to wake up tomorrow and one of the vehicles I have isn't going to start. I'm going to have a battery problem tomorrow. I don't have a battery problem today. I'm going to have it tomorrow. And I know that because my wife told me when she got here today, oh, by the way, have you got the battery for the car? Because it barely started for me to get here today. But I'm not going to worry about that today because it's going to be on the agenda tomorrow. Today is just to be with all you lovely people. My worry is just to get through the day. Tomorrow will have its own stuff. But it's true for your life as well, right? We don't know what tomorrow's going to be. We don't know. Monday, we got an idea. But when that happens, there's always something, right? And that's how Jesus says, listen, every day, each day has enough trouble of its own. So let's just kind of focus on the day. Because while you can prepare for tomorrow, you can do your stuff, just do what you can do and leave the rest with God, because ultimately, isn't it in his control? Because I'm convinced that one of the problems that you have and that I have is that we think we're way more in control of life than we are. In fact, I think there are certain situations that pop up in life that remind us, you have no idea what you're doing. You have no control at all, right? But even in not having control, our job is just to do what we can. And then to trust the one that really does have some control in all those things. So what if we shifted our focus and in the process shifted our devotion? What if this is one of those kind of getting perspective things? And in that process of getting a perspective of how worry works and why worry is not so smart, not only not so smart, isn't beneficial, and why we should just leave it alone and just focus on what we can do. What if in that process it really helps us shift that devotion to this one thing as opposed to two competing things? So let me offer you some advice as we wrap this whole series up. First thing I'm going to tell you is this. And you know why I'm going to tell you that? Because I need to do that as well. All of us need to slow down, right? Because isn't it true that when you start worrying, things kind of speed up? And your mind begins to go, and you go to all these different places, and another thought pops up, and you're like, oh, I got to cover that. Wait, let me check this, let me get this. And you're just kind of all over the place. Just slow down, because here's the reality. There is power in a pause. So everybody take a pause. You know, when you kind of get sucked into it, because we all kind of get sucked into it, just kind of take a pause for a moment. Because here's what taking that pause will do for us. It will stop the spiral, at least for a moment. Just pause that spiral, because if it's going to happen, let's let it happen in a moment. But right now, let's just pause it. Let's stop the spiral. And what I mean by stop the spiral is also to stop searching for data to back up our worry. Because I don't know about you, when I begin to really kind of worry about stuff, I begin to find lots of reasons to worry. And I just kind of feed that all. But maybe stopping the cycle is say, well, let's stop searching for data to back it up. Let's instead think it through. Let's think this whole process through. And I love what Brene Brown, what she offers on this brilliant brain researcher, and she does all this research. It comes up with this great stuff. And what I love about her, she applies it to her own life. Because she says, I don't got this all figured out. I'm kind of figuring this out. But she says, here's what I do when I get in one of those moments of kind of, I'm starting to kind of get overwhelmed, worry. So here's what she says. She asks herself two questions, two clarifying questions. First of all is this one. Do I have enough data to freak out? Which is a really good question, right? I mean, do I have enough information? Is it like, oh, somebody, do I have enough to really kind of freak out? And here's what she says. Right? Because we probably don't. I mean, most of us kind of freak out a little early in the game. We got to wait just a moment, right? Then I left her a second question, because that's an important question. Do I have enough information to freak out, enough data to freak out? And secondly, question is, will freaking out help the situation? And I love what she says about this. In fact, freaking out normally just makes things work, right? So here's what I do an exercise. In fact, I'm going to encourage you to do this as you go home today, because it's kind of yucky outside. You're going to be at home, covered up in blankets, trying to stay warm. Here's just a kind of a fun thing to go through this afternoon. Make yourself a list of what you can and can't control. All right? I'm going to help you start the list this morning, right? But here's a list. What can and can't we control? Can we control the past? Now, you don't have to answer for everybody. Everybody come to their own conclusion, right? Can we control our present? See, that one you may have a little more discussion about, right? Because you think, well, yeah. But I just want you to, honestly, I want you to go home and just think this through. Can we control the future? See, this would be a fun exercise. If you're in a relationship, have a fun discussion, right? Because it is kind of eye-opening, because it reminds us about how we think about those things. How about this? Can we control people? This one stinks. I wish we could, right? But the answer is no, right? Now, if you think you ought to just think on that a little more this afternoon. Can you control what people post? But you could delete it, unfollow it, unfriend them, just delete the whole app, right? Be done with that, right? But go home and just think about this, because here's what I want you to think about, because here's the conclusion I expect you will come to. You are in control of much less than you believe. And I understand why. Because we have to function in life. And one way we function is feeling like we have some sense that we have some control over what's happening. Otherwise, it's just like we're on a roller coaster and we're not strapped in and we're like, we don't know if it's going to stop halfway. And that's not a good feeling, right? And I do think there are some things we can control. But I think the list is much smaller than most of us imagine. See, what if worry doesn't have to be our story? And peace of mind is possible. And what if it's not just about stop worrying? What if it's about believing something more than we believe in that whole process of worrying? Because I'm going to go back to what I told you the very first week, which I think from Jesus is so important. When people come up with fear in their lives, when they're in a fearful situation, when they're around Jesus, Jesus has one consistent thing that he says to them. And here's what he says. He always says to them, don't be, what's the word there? Afraid. Don't be afraid. And it's always because I am with you. Sometimes he says that. Sometimes it's just like, don't be afraid. Right? But don't be afraid because I'm with you. Don't be afraid because I'm for you. Because sometimes we forget that he's for us, right?
Yes, thank you, Lord. Thank you.
And also don't forget, and you're with me. Because it isn't just about him being with us, it's also us being with him. And I don't know about you, sometimes one of the best things in life is being with somebody else. When I was young and foolish, had lots of hair back then. I was real skinny. But I was in a car club with a bunch of big dudes, which was not always the best idea because sometimes your mouth gets the better of you when you're with somebody, right? But there is a sense of security that comes when it's not just that they're with me, but I'm with them, right? And let's not forget who we're with.